What's up, guys? I'm from Rob Tassie Productions, and as I'd like to get into something totally different on my channel, well, as it may not be having to do with either music or any graphic novel collection series, or even like video games, but no, as I decided to talk about my absolute all-time favorite British comedy that aired on ITV way back in 1937, and not only marks the 32nd anniversary of the show's run in July, and today also marks the 26th anniversary of when we said goodbye to watching with the final episode. Now, as we know, the British comedies has been around longer as television has existed, and now it can be quite of a laugh, and some of the content back in them days can be quite dated. And so, as we have in the 80s, like Home to Roast, or even Only Fools and Horses, and even there is many shows like Last of the Summer Wine. And so with it being in 1987, I thought I might like to talk about my all-time favorite comedy that me and my parents absolutely love, and that is Watching. Now, Watching was a British comedy which was ran from 1987 to 1993, which aired by Granada Television for ITV, as it was done by Jim Hitchmer, the one who runs the show, the one who runs the show in it for its entire run. And now this review will be containing spoilers, so be warned. And so grab yourself a pair of binoculars and grab yourself a nice drink of wine, and go into the hide, because we're about to get right into it. And so just to start off with is the first season, because that's where it all like to be taken to start off. Now, this is the first season of Watching, which has been premiered on the 5th of July, 1987. And yes, as before you guys notice, that I have with me is at the time of the releases now 9 and now 10 being released in the same year though. Yeah, don't want like to give in some extra detail though. But anyhow, this series was brilliant, a perfect start though. And as we see that Malcolm Stanway, played by Paul Bown, and you might recognise Paul Bown as he played other one-off characters like that pubman, like that barman from a Bad Dogs episode of New Tricks, and even an exam student in the Mr. Bean episode, and even one of characters from Father Ted, and even with Brenda Wilson, played by Emma Ray, and you may never even heard of the girl or the actress, and she only did very little filmography, and you might know that she hasn't been on TV in recent years. And there we have here is Pamela Wilson, played by Liza Tarbuck of all people. Now you might see her in the new TV series, which was on Channel 5, which is the game show, which I forgot the name of. And there we have here, as you might recognise here, is Terry Milton, played by Perry Fenwick, who now currently plays Billy Mitchell from EastEnders, and also other one-off characters. And now, as we all get to be getting into all sorts of filmography as we go along, and even we see that Patsy Byrne, if you have a look here, yes, you might recognise her as Nursey from Blackadder, as the second series that is. And now she plays Mrs. Dunway, or Marge, if you would like to prefer it. And now we come through recognisable people, and even like Sydney Fox, play, Sydney Clough. is played by Philip Fox of Blasted and Civil Wine, as mentioned earlier, and who is like to be called Hissy Sid or Big Sid as Brenda's so called in the fourth episode. Which is in the episode called Confusing, and even like when in the first episode where we see that Brenda and Pamela go on people watching in the grapes, and then that Brenda called Malcolm and Arnold, and now as an Arnold, and even with Malcolm not understanding what Brenda meant as they were just going into the cafe and meeting up with Oswald, the cafe assistant, played by Dave Dutton, and as his usual catchphrase, "I'll bring it over," and yeah, that sort of stuff, as it gets me chuckling every time, and whenever I've been asked to be asked by my parents or anybody to whether they want something for me to take up, and I always say that to them, "I'll bring it over." Yeah. Anyway, and even that Malcolm is revealed to be a bird watcher, and it even works as at the clothing shops with Terry Milton, and even when Brenda didn't really want to see Malcolm again after that, after returning a lost earring down at the grapes. And then in the second episode, that Brenda decides to give Malcolm a second chance, and as Malcolm was talking to Terry Milton in the clothing shop whilst talking about Brenda, and then in the leaving episode, that Brenda decides to go to London, but changed her mind as the train stopped in Crewe, and now in the following episode, that after bringing her back into the Liverpool side of the UK, as Malcolm felt really tired and exhausted, and even with of Pamela, but obviously doesn't feel appreciative on her hard work. Brenda asks Cindy Clough just to organise a surprise party, and even a bunch of smokers and a bunch of drinkers, and even when it comes to, and even Pamela didn't even expect it, which was very funny. And we always like to see Malcolm and Brenda in the sidecar, and every time I see a sidecar, I always think of that show. Very funny, and even that was awesome. And then in hiding, which was one of the most notable episodes for me, is when Brenda mentioned the bird that was called the lesser spotted gobtwit. I know it is really funny though, and there's a seasoning Christmas special where we see Corky from Brookside guest starred in the episode that aired on the 26th of December, Boxing Day, 1987, and which is really a good season though, and even with Malcolm and doing a Chinese impression, and even Brenda commenting, you know how China has their own Chinese New Year. Well, this is our Chinese Christmas, and then Malcolm is being portrayed as a Chinese man, and then get with Brenda and Pamela pulling the crackers, and even that Pamela was feeling uncomfortable with Sidney Clough, and also got him waiting. That was very good. And since we're on the DVD side of it, what do we think of this then? Well, as we see the advertising inside here, as we see many classic ITV shows that we don't even hear of, but I know that we hear of the bill, and there's also we got inside here is the Tales of the Unexpected that you might find on the Sky TV channels. Yeah, and Dempsey and Makepeace. And so let's move on to the next season that premiered in the following year of 1988. Yes, that was good, as it introduced John Bowler as David Lynch, not confusing you with the Elephant Man director. And now that John Bowler later played Roger Valentine in said bill, and that was a really good, fascinating series as it followed it on, as it makes watching became watching. All 7 episodes, complete and uncut. and now it even brings it up to a whole new level when Malcolm gets even redundant by his job when some business take over the clothing shop, where Malcolm moves to mod shops with Terry Milton, and even introducing Auntie Peggy, played by Elizabeth Briggs, and in other ITV shows. And then in the episode Dining, which was another one of my favourite, as Brenda causes mischief in the restaurant with to a doctor though. And even in the episode Moving, when we see that David Lynch applied for Brenda's job in London, and so she moved there. And later on in the episode, not realising that Malcolm still got Brenda's tickets though. And that is really good though. And so that is the second season of Watching. As it really is what made this is when Watching became Watching. And I enjoy that so much. And now we get into series 3, which aired in 1989, which is also which gets even more funnier and funnier, and even with a longer special called Twitching, which surprisingly lasts for about over the show's runtime. I'm guessing about 40 minutes though. Who knows? And then sorry about the burp. Oh dear. And then in Losing, when Brenda loses a job in London, and though she's back in London, went back in Liverpool with Malcolm, things are back to normal, are they? And then when it proposes that Pamela marries David Lynch, and even that is really a cool movement. And even with Susan Rabbit or Susan Roberts, as we don't usually see in those scenarios, though, I enjoyed though. And which was in the episode called Wedding, as I enjoy though. And this is the first DVD to be having that sort of details on the inlay of the DVD cover. And now this is a big one, my favourite season, season 4, which is the first one to have a 2-disc set, which has 9 episodes. When Pamela has her first child called Sarah, which we don't see much of the actress of because it must be a one-off. And we see that Malcolm decides to become a motorist in Sternway in Malcolm's motoring, and even Sternway Motors, and even with which has a lot of funny bits added to it, like when Malcolm looks after an injured bird with a wing, and it comes back to him though, and even when Brenda decided to move in with Malcolm into Marge's home, and even with Brenda and Malcolm losing their wellies on the whilst going on the boat, which is so funny. And even Brenda gaining a job at Oswald's Cafe, as mentioned earlier, and sadly losing a job at the final episode. Now, this final episode is really interesting since it's a really good cliffhanger that we see that Malcolm and Brenda moves into Auntie Peggy's house, and which also leads into the 5th season, as this season aired in 1990 or 1989 to 1990, whatever that dates are. Anyway, and even repairing that, and even the episode where they repaired that bent over metallic pram of Sarah's, which Chris Cameron has accidentally knocked over. And next we have here is a 5th season where it really goes under its flow, which aired around 1991, where we get introduced to Elizabeth Morton, who now plays Lucinda, as even that she's the boring character of the entire show's run, and even that as we see that it has 10 episodes. 10 episodes, that is a lot. And so we see that Pamela falls for a second child called Zelda. I'm guessing she named it off a video game character, but I'm not entirely sure though. And it also has Herming, or one of the episodes that introduced Noreen Kershaw as Joyce Wilson, and now you may see it in the Life of Mars series, and as on BBC. And that's the episode listings here, and even with Malcolm marrying Lucinda in the bonding episode, which was a really false move for the writers to do, and that's the part where watching really went under its flow. But there are still some great episodes on it, such as the first episode, and even like the presenting episode, like when it's a Christmas special, which only has a bit of nostalgia stuff, and that is good. And also, and then later in 1992, after the 1991 special called Slippin', and Series 6 is arguably the worst run of watching when we don't see make and this is a series where it doesn't feel like watching though, and even has like kind of lacking of their actual development in even having a short amount of seven episodes, and even when Brenda now works behind the bar at the Grapes, and even when Malcolm and Brenda are supposed to be going on the bird watching contest, but ended up getting trapped in the at a beach cave where they got rescued by helicopters. And now even with christening where we christen Zelda, and even with doctoring when there's a party going on and somebody idiotically has been drink driving. How disgusting! Always watch your public information films, mate. Always watch them, even on adverts, and even in Confessing, in the season finale where Lucinda announces her pregnancy and realizing what she did is wrong, that she shouldn't have married to Malcolm and decide to divorce him, and so Malcolm and Brenda are basically back together again. Yay! And that is a really good one though. And so apart from the first episode of Series 7, we come to the end of Lucinda's story. Thank heavens for that. And this one came out in 1992 though. But thankfully we returned to an actual season with only 8 episodes, with the 7th and final season of the show's run. And look at this. Malcolm and Brenda getting married. Yes! And it took 2 seasons for Pamela and David to get married, and this took them 7 seasons just to finally get round to being married. And now this includes the New Year special from 1993, and this season did come out in 1993. And so it has reverted when, after Lucinda announced her pregnancy and decided to split up with Malcolm, and Brenda and Malcolm got back together, as I said earlier. And now with Migrating is where Pamela wants a nanny, but ended up getting a boat, which really sparked a fury against David, and which kicked him in the shin and knocked him in the eye, which is awful, and also hilarious. And also see that David Lynch goes to a boat club where he comes and meets Julian, and now with and I don't know that Gerald in Series 5 was played by Andrew Hilton, and now we have here is engaging is when Malcolm and Brenda gets engaged, which is a really good move though, and even gets a letter from Lucinda's solicitor, and keeps Malcolm preoccupied, which has a bit of a distraction before the big party. Yeah, that is a good one where all the family comes together. And there's this two-parter called Wandering 1 and 2, where one user on Mel's Mackerel's Facebook page says it isn't the best episodes of watching, where there's lack of development on Brenda, and even there is a lack of lack of focus on the nanny. And also we see but on the bright side, at least we finally get to see the return of Terry Milton. Yes, Terry Milton, the last we saw on series 3 called Wedding. And now this was an awesome one Brenda and Pamela were off on holiday in the Mediterraneans, and whilst talking about the mod shops and even how things have gone since its departure from the series, and even this is really good though, and even when there it comes to, and even when Pamela fell for a fireman, which adds some love story, which is a side story. Meanwhile, back in the UK, that we see that Malcolm, David, and even the nanny, and even and even Joyce playing strip snap. Oh dear, that must be really dirty though, even to the Marge's disgust. And that is so much funny, as we see plenty of laughs along the way. And that was really good though. And so Notting, which is the final episode of the series, where we see Malcolm and Brenda finally getting married. David Lynch obviously filling in for the role of best man for when Terry Milton couldn't make it on time, and even like when it and even have our T's and cross our eyes, which is also hilarious. And even though that many people got drunk, and even the day before the wedding, and even getting ice packs for their headaches, and even long term runs on when it comes to being having all wedding receptions, and having Harold the barman from the Grebes having to bring Brenda into the church to Malcolm, and that was really good though, which was the highlight of the series, and that got me really excited to see them. And Harold says to the guide and broom, blind old bat he is. Yeah, indeed. And even then we see who else? Terry Milton coming in at last minute to the Grapes and also talking about mod shops with Malcolm, which is a good reunion though. And even though that even to Cedric's surprise shock that Harold lets everybody have a drink for free, as it seems it as his venue. And that is so funny though. And so and so and so Brenda and Malcolm says their last goodbyes to the entire cast of Watching before having their raffled sidecar saying just married when the cast members have been saying yay to them too, and so excited and as they go into the sunset, and even when Malcolm and Brenda already started their arrangements with the honeymoon, and seen that Gerald is already in the boat, which looks like the Ragdoll, not to get confused with Rosie and Jim from Ragdoll Productions, though. And so on primetime TV, and even the minute before, and uh, even this half a minute after the credits started, and we all see that Brenda and Malcolm go right on into the lakes, right to the lakes. And Brenda said, "Hey Malk, do you remember when when Mum said to grab a bully?" Yeah, I think I know what she meant, don't you? Oh, Brenda, and which gets me that is an ongoing joke, even though Noreen Kershaw as Joyce is really brilliant as an actress, and even livens up the show with a bit when things go wrong, and even when it sparks fury for many fans, and she really cheers us up, and even adds a bit more humour to it though. And with after those two lines, and with that moment on, and as it aired on the 4th of April, 1993, and that episode and that date marked the end of Watching in its 7-year run. And now for the conclusion. And so overall, while Watchmen may not be remembered fondly by many critics and many people, but it's good to be having many fans out there, even on the Mouse Mackles Facebook page. And even that Paul Banner's gone on to move on to do some one-off characters as Nutrix and Mr. Bean and Father Brown or Father Ted on BBC One. And even Emma Ray didn't do much after this, but she also did Stay Lucky as a side project with Dennis Waterman and Jan Francis until 1993. And then she also did a final show called My Wonderful Life before she quitted acting. That would have been interesting to see the entire series being released onto DVD, but we have to wait and see until Network makes a move. And there's a Tarbuck, there's other chat shows and other game shows, and John Bowler also gone on to play Roger Valentine in The Bill, and Perry Fenwick also plays Billy Mitchell in EastEnders, and Patsy Byrne as she returns to Blackadder and back and forth, and does other shows. With the final show she did was Hobby City before her death in 2014, and even with Noreen Kershaw does Life on Mars TV series on BBC along with Ashes to Ashes, I think, and we don't see Andrew Hilton again after that or Elizabeth Morton, and so overall it has been brilliant though, and we'll always remember watching. Thank you for keeping us entertained, and also may your legacy of your programs live on through your television networks and on DVD. And so, thank you guys for watching this history or review video. Sorry for it being so long though, but I thought and I hope it provided an insight into this here. And so please hit that like, subscribe, and even comment in the section below. And so, from me, Robin Moore, from the Robtastic Productions YouTube channel, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you later.